this video, I prove two main points and a couple of subpoints. Number one, I proved that Mount Sinai is in Saudi Arabia, and this will be indisputable after you see what I have to show you here. Secondly, Avaris, also known as the biblical Goshen, which was the Hyksos capital in Egypt, is a location selected by Abraham, and this we can prove fairly easily with my discoveries here using Google Earth only. I'm very thankful for having such a tool to be able to do some very accurate research. So let's go towards Mount Sinai using Google Earth. The Mount Sinai in Saudi Arabia. That is the location. Now you will see here that there is a facility here. This is in Saudi Arabia. They've built something here to do some research. Alright. The mountain is called Jabal al-Lawz, and it's already been argued that this could not be Mount Sinai for different reasons. But whatever those reasons are, it doesn't really matter, because what I'm about to show you. The peak for Jabal al-Lawz is 2-3 miles south of the sacred location of Mount Sinai. And that particular peak, in my mind, is Mount Horeb. It's been thought that Mount Sinai and Mount Horeb are the same mountain. Technically they are. It's that the Mount Sinai plateau is up here, and Mount Horeb is the location or the peak of Jabal al-Lawz that has some caves surrounding the area. So now let's move on to see why I say the things that I say. So first then, let's go over to Temple Mount. Temple Mount is the primary location where Abraham first encounters God. He was supposed to sacrifice his son there. Canaan was a land area with various populations that believed in child sacrifice, and according to the biblical account, Abraham refused to sacrifice his own son. Now, it's not that he refused officially in the text, of course. It's that an angel came and told him to stop and not proceed, and that he had proven his loyalty by following God's command to sacrifice his son. Anyway, that is Temple Mount. Now, I have two other locations. The other location is Avaris and Goshen in Egypt. Now, this is very, very interesting. This is a location of Avaris. All these locations can be found on the internet by searching the GPS coordinates, but I'll have them in the description just to make your research a little easier. If you look now at Avaris Goshen, its location, you can see that it's to the northern part of Egypt. It is above the waterways and was the capital of the Hyksos. Now let me show you what I have in regards to these locations. You'll notice I have another location here called Free the Chosen. I'll get to that in one moment. First, I'm going to review with you an ancient measurement. Let me show you the ancient measurement. It is this measurement here, biblical measurement of a mill. Plural is millin, and it can vary between 0.598 to 0.712 miles, so that 1 millin is equal to anywhere within that range. Out of my calculations from the measurements I have taken, it does measure up with 0.712 miles being equal to 1 mil. That is the measurement. So I took some measurements using Google Earth drawing lines, that gives you measurements in miles, kilometers, and feet, and so on. So here are some of the measurements. Let me zoom in just a little bit so you can have a better appreciation of this. Between Temple Mount and Avaris, we have 213 miles, which is 299 millen, close enough to 300. We may not have the exact center of Avaris to bring it up to 214 miles to get 299 millen. I'm just reporting it directly from GPS coordinates between these 2 points to get that measurement. Second point is between Temple Mount and Mount Sinai at Jabal al-Laz in Saudi Arabia is 213 miles, also 299 millen, close enough for 300 millen. Now, you might think that that could be just some weird coincidence, and you might want to suggest that the traditional Mount Sinai, which is over here, down here, might have an equal interesting geometry, but it does not. Traditional Mount Sinai to the Temple Mount is 235 miles, and the traditional Mount Sinai to Avaris is 201 miles. There's nothing to speak of there. The link between Avaris and Mount Sinai at Saudi Arabia is 253 miles or 355 millen. So we have then a triangle of 300 by 300 by 355 between those 3 points. While researching this, I decided to take a look to see if there's anything in opposite direction using the same measurements. That is to say 355 millen to the bottom and 300 millen from the Temple Mount. Funny enough, I discovered a location here. Let me first point out the exact mileage. It's 214 miles, exactly 300 millen to that location. And from Mount Sinai to the location I call Free the Chosen is 254 miles, which is 356.7 millen, close enough to 355, matching the bottom side of the western triangle. Now, Free the Chosen, I named it this because it was a park in Saudi Arabia that surrounds this area I'm about to show you. It had an Arabic name. I used Google Translate by selecting the text that the name had a couple of years ago, and it translated into Free the Chosen. It has since been changed. I went back to Google Maps, back to the location to try to see and show you on this video. I do have a JPEG or a PNG file somewhere of the original name of the park, but it has been changed to something else that has no meaning to this research anymore. But I still call it the Free the Chosen. And basically, it is a formation on the ground that might have looked particularly ominous to the people on the ground when they came there. It's not particularly high. It seems to be elevated at about 2,800 feet above the ground. The points come here perfectly, so it has some significance. Now, my line that comes from Mount Sinai being a bit long, it could be because I'm too far. I measured it out a little too far from the center. But there has to have some significance here. There are some lines that looks like some ancient paths that come through here in a somewhat straight fashion from here to here, and it continues onward here. A bit of a hump to come through here, a little valley of some sort, and it continues straight on as an ancient road that is not used anymore, doesn't show up on Google Maps, basically cannot see anything. But there is a straight line and other interesting features of this formation I've called Free the Chosen. So if we look back then on this on these two triangles, we do have a very, very interesting geometry that gives us a triangle to the east equal to a triangle to the west. The fact that this meets perfectly with Jabal al-Laz in Saudi Arabia is a clear indication that the Mount Sinai is truly Jabal Allah's. There's no two ways about it. Traditional Mount Sinai is totally out of the picture. It showed up in a woman's dream one night, and she said that it was a revelation that was the Mount Sinai, and they went with that, and they haven't been able to change their minds about it. So that's one thing. Mount Sinai, you can see, fits perfectly here, would not fit at all at the traditional site. Avaris Goshen also fits perfectly there, which has to tell you that Abraham selected the Temple Mount to match up with ground formations and a mount, and that can be measured out. They used to pay people to march and measure their distances to get a clue. Now, Abraham was a very intelligent, wealthy man. He knew what he wanted to do. So he selected the Temple Mount location. He also selected the location in Egypt for Avaris to complete this triangle. You see, by selecting the Temple Mount, he completed the first, and by selecting Avaris, he completed the second. Very interesting point about Avaris Goshen is that it existed only once. After the Hyksos were chased out of Egypt, that is to say, when the Hebrews were chased out of Egypt, after ruling there for apparently some 300 years, once they were chased out, Avaris, or Goshen, was destroyed, was never rebuilt, existed only once. That should tell you something else. That'll be part of another video I plan to make with respect to the Hyksos, with respect to the Exodus and so on. So there you have it. This is the research I'm sharing with you today. Please leave me your comments below. I'd be interested in reading them. Have a great day.